Have you ever said something and instantly wished you hadn't, not because it was wrong, but because it felt exposed? Like you gave them a piece of you they didn't deserve, and they smiled, not with kindness, but with advantage. Most people don't lose by being wrong. They lose by speaking too soon, too much, to the wrong people. Because every time you speak, something is set in motion, a reaction, a judgment, a shift in how they see you. And once it begins, you can't take it back. Let me show you what really happens the moment you speak. You don't notice it because it feels natural, comfortable, harmless. You speak to connect, to feel seen, to explain. But every time you do, you give away more than you think. They start to see your patterns, your insecurities, your logic, not because they're wise, but because you made it easy. Every word becomes a breadcrumb, and some people, they follow those crumbs to get inside your mind. The dangerous part, you won't even know it happened. Not right away. You'll just notice that people treat you differently. They'll speak over you, ignore your ideas, use your own words against you in ways you never expected. It starts small. You say something in confidence, someone laughs, changes the subject, and for the rest of the conversation, you shrink, not because they were right, but because they saw you hesitate. Now they know where to push next time. They know where your voice cracks. They know where your confidence ends, and you showed them. That's the invisible mistake. We think speaking helps us gain control, but in truth, it often trades control for relief. A moment of expression in exchange. For long-term vulnerability, Seneca warned us about this. He said, while the fools speak to be heard, the wise listen to understand. Modern life reverses that. Social media, meetings, endless talking, endless sharing. Everyone trying to be heard, but no one protecting their signal. We confuse expression with strength. But expression without awareness is just noise. And noise is predictable, easy to trace, easy to manipulate. You think you're being clear, but you're being mapped. The words you speak become blueprints for other people to enter your system. They start to know what makes you tick, what triggers you, what you're afraid to lose, and worst of all, what you still haven't healed. You might think you're just being real, but some people don't want your truth. They want your weakness. They listen to take notes, not to connect, not to help, but to plan. Plan how to rise above you, how to dismiss you, how to gain power over you without ever raising their voice. And you gave them the script voluntarily. That's the danger of unconscious speech. It's not about honesty, it's about discernment. It's about knowing who's listening and why. You can't control what people do with your words, but you can control what you give them in the first place. Not everything needs to be said. Not every thought deserves an audience, and not every silence is empty. Some are tactical, some are protective, some are sacred. The Stoic doesn't fear being misunderstood because he chooses when to reveal and when to withhold, and in that choice he becomes untouchable. Most people are terrified of silence because in silence they can no longer control the image they project. They start to wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning, whether you saw through them, and the mind hates that. So they fill the silence with words, with explanations, with performances, but you don't. You sit with it. You let the discomfort grow, because in that discomfort you gain leverage. Silence is not absence. It's tension. It's control. It shifts the weight of the moment onto the other person. Suddenly they feel exposed because they're the only one talking. They're the only one trying to be seen, to be validated. And you become the observer, the mirror, the unknown. That's where real power begins. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." A good man doesn't need to explain himself. He shows up. He acts. He lets his silence speak louder than his defense. In meetings, the quiet one isn't overlooked. He's studied. In relationships, the one who listens holds the rhythm. In arguments, the one who waits usually wins. Why? Because most people reveal their weaknesses while trying to prove their strength. They talk too much, defend too hard, react too fast. But the man who doesn't flinch, who doesn't rush to correct or defend himself, creates mystery, and mystery creates gravity. People start to lean in, to pay attention, to question themselves, not because you forced them to, but because you didn't need to. Your restraint made their noise feel desperate. Your stillness made their movement feel anxious. And that's the paradox. The more you explain, the weaker you sound. The more you stay still, the stronger you become. Silence isn't passive, it's pressure. It creates space where others reveal themselves. You don't need to attack, just watch, listen, and let them hand you everything you need without realizing it. Because when you control your voice, you control the frame. And when you control the frame, you control the outcome. Most people never learn this. They're too busy trying to be loud in a world that respects the ones who know when not to speak. Power is not in the voice, it's in the awareness behind it. While most people rush to speak, to act, to respond, the Stoic waits, not out of fear, but out of discipline. He listens, not just to words, but to patterns, intentions, tensions between the lines. He observes the room like a soldier studies wind before releasing the arrow, because once you speak, your position is fixed. And fixed positions are easy to target. The disciplined man stays fluid. He guards his internal citadel. He doesn't explain his values, he lives them. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." So, the Stoic doesn't rush to prove himself. He's not here to impress. He's here to endure, to observe, to outlast. He doesn't react to offense. He studies it. He doesn't interrupt noise. He lets it collapse on its own. And when he does move, it's clean, it's grounded, it's final. People confuse this with passivity, but it's the opposite. He's active where it counts, in judgment, in perception, in timing, and that makes his silence not emptiness, but pressure. He becomes a mirror, revealing others to themselves without saying a word, because true power doesn't seek visibility. It seeks clarity, and from clarity comes quiet execution. He doesn't need the world to understand his plan. He just needs to understand the world, and that he does silently. You thought you were connecting, opening up, being honest, but what you didn't see was how they looked at you when you spoke, not with empathy, but with calculation. They smiled, they nodded, but they never forgot what you said. And one day, they used it. That dream you shared in confidence, they mocked it. That fear you confessed late at night, they weaponized it. Not everyone deserves your truth. Not everyone is equipped to carry it. And every time you speak without discernment, you give people tools they didn't earn. We mistake expression for healing. We think vulnerability is always noble. But vulnerability in the wrong hands is ammunition. It's not just what you say, it's who hears it and what they do with it when you're not around. Some people don't listen to understand, they listen to catalog, to build a file, to know where to aim. If they ever feel the need to bring you down, and you made it easy, not because you're weak, but because you forgot that silence is not the opposite of honesty. It's the guardian of clarity. You don't need to explain your pain to be real. You don't need to confess everything to be whole. The Stoic knows this. He doesn't hide. He selects. He filters. He shares only what is essential to the moment. He doesn't seek to be known. He seeks to be grounded, because when you speak from impulse, you lose form. You dissolve your center trying to be seen. But when you hold your center, when you speak only what's necessary, you become unmoved, unshakable. Silence becomes your filter, your armor, your standard. It separates the wise from the impulsive, the steady from the desperate, the rare from the ordinary. And in a world where everyone is overexposed, those who master restraint stand out without saying a word. You're not the loudest man in the room, and you never needed to be, because you've learned something most haven't. Presence doesn't require noise. It requires depth. While others raise their voices, fight for attention, chase approval, you've been building something quieter, something stronger. You observe, you measure, you hold, not because you're hiding, but because you understand the cost of being fully seen by the wrong eyes. You speak when it matters, and only then, and when you do, they feel it. Not just the words, but the space around them, the weight behind them, the restraint it took to wait. You're not in a rush to explain yourself. You're not here to perform wisdom. You're here to embody it, and that makes people uneasy because they can't read you, can't predict you, can't control the rhythm of someone who's already centered. Marcus Aurelius said, "Receive. Without pride, let go without attachment." And that's what you do. You don't grip your image. You don't defend every thought. You don't react just to prove you're alive. You breathe. You pause. You choose. While others panic in silence, you move through it like you belong there. And you do, because you've trained in it. You've suffered in it. You've been refined by it. You no longer fear being misunderstood. You fear being pulled away from your core. That's why you stay still when others spiral. Why you speak slowly when others scramble. You don't need to be admired. You need to stay intact. In a world obsessed with exposure, you are the rare one who holds something back, and that mystery, it's not a tactic. It's who you became when the noise stopped making sense. You don't dominate with volume. You lead with gravity, because the man who's mastered his silence becomes impossible to ignore. Not because he demands attention, but because he no longer needs it. And that is what makes you unforgettable. You've been taught to speak, to share, to open up, to be honest. But no one taught you the power of not speaking. No one told you that silence can be a boundary, a shield, a strategy. No one warned you that some people only listen to know where to cut, and maybe now you're seeing it. The conversations you regret, the trust you gave too easily, the parts of you that felt cheapened because you offered them before they were ready. You thought you were being real, but you were giving away the map to people who were never meant to hold it, and now you're left wondering, what if I had said less? What if I had waited? What if I had guarded what was still becoming? This isn't about silence for silence's sake. It's about recovering your center, reclaiming your stillness, respecting your own depth, because not every thought deserves to become sound. Not every feeling needs an audience, and not every silence needs to be filled. Some silences are wise, some are sacred, and some are stronger than any argument you could ever make. The Stoic doesn't speak to be heard, he speaks to be precise. And when he's silent, it's not because he has nothing to say, it's because he has something to protect. Your power was never in your voice, it was always in your discipline to know when not to use it. If you felt that, subscribe to Walk with Men Who Speak Less and Build More.